Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of fixing a no start on a 1980s Honda XR250r dirt bike. Today we're gonna go over the problems that I had once I stuck this thing all the way back together. So I had this thing bolted all the way back together, everything hooked up good, except for this air filter boot, which I still have to fix. And now when I turn the fuel on, there's a bunch of fuel coming out of the float bowl vent, which is this hose down here, and it just leaks all over the floor. You can still see the little bit of a shadow there from where it was before. Could also be just the shadow of the bike in the camera that you can see, but there was gas there before. So now I'm going to tear this thing all the way back apart, and I'll let you know when I'm done that. Hi everybody. Okay, so right now I'm in the middle of tearing this dirt bike back apart again. As you can see, I have the fender, the seat, the exhaust, a bunch of other stuff apart on this thing right now. But I need to pull this air box out, and starting with this boot right here, which is a Phillips head screwdriver, and I will see you on the next clip. Okay, so right now I'm in the middle of removing this air box, this piece here. So to do that on these bikes, you have to pull it up and, oh no, sorry, push it down. It may take a while, but you have to twist this, get this down, and then it comes out basically like you pull it out at an angle like this, and it comes out. Okay, so now the carburetor is off. To do this, I had to unhook the cables and this clamp that holds it onto the boot, and now the airbox is out. We could have got the carburetor out. Now we gotta tear this thing apart and figure out why this thing is overflowing. Okay, so now that we have the carburetor off of this bike, we can tear into this thing and figure out what is wrong with this thing, because this thing never used to overflow out this top hose, or out the bottom hose for that matter, but out this top hose it just flows fuel like crazy. So I think it's a bad needle or a bad float. Could be that the float is not floating in the fuel, and I'll show you how we're going to do these tests in a minute here when I tear this thing apart. Okay, so now that I've got the float bowl off of this carburetor, I have to pull this float off and the needle and seat out just to check that everything is good. Okay, so here's our needle and float assembly out. This float seems to be okay, so does the needle. So it could possibly be the seat inside the carburetor, this brass piece here. Sorry about bad video footage. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, so you can see that there's a little bit of water in this sink. We're just going to take this float and see. Looks like it's floating, so... Okay, so I'm just looking at this adjustment on the float right now. This thing looks like it's been tampered with before, or maybe I bent it in the last video, I don't remember. Might have by accidentally bent it, but you can see that it's way underneath the main body of the float. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick this in the main carburetor body and check for float height. We'll go over that procedure in a minute. Okay, so we're just about to go ahead and test this float height. We'll go over the procedure in a minute, but before we go over the procedure, I just want to say before you go ahead to check your float height, be sure that the pin inside your needle is where the float is resting on and it's not pressed down like that. You'll see that that moves, right? Be sure that it's just sitting on there. So in this case, I have it set up where it's just sitting on there. But if it's sitting like this, like way up like this where it's not even touching, you're not going to be measuring it in the proper way. So be sure that it's just touching, which you can see it is in here, this video. And we're going to go ahead and look at the service manual, see what the factory float height is, and we'll check between the sealing edge on the main body and the top of the float here on the main level surface. Being that this float is not sitting level, I'm going to guess it's probably going to have to go up to about there, which we'll get into adjusting in a minute. And then this hit it at the 7.0, so this is measuring in thousandths of an inch, and we need it to be measuring in tenths of an inch. So you'll see it says 70 here. This is 70 thousandths of an inch off of half an inch. No. Yeah, off of half an inch. So we're going to be taking this height and using this end of it where it comes down and measuring against the carburetor body like this, and we can see that that float is not level with where it's supposed to be. So now we have to adjust this thing to make it work. Okay, so now we have it set up where it looks sort of level. With this, we're going to take our dial calipers and take a look. It looks like it still has to come up more, possibly. I'll let you know in a minute. Okay, so now that this carburetor is back together, we're just going to go ahead and check this on the bike. I know that the float level doesn't measure exactly what the factory says, but let's see if it leaks through the vent hose or not. Borb, what are you doing? You can't come in the house. Buddy, no, you can't come in the house either, I'm sorry. You just have to stay here. Hemi, get out of the garbage. Hi Scratch, how are you? How's Scratch today? Okay, so I hope that you got the message from the waterfall and the Mayday, the engine room is leaking. But if you didn't, the carburetor is still leaking. There's something leaking down all over here with gas. Could be this fuel line because it's not clamped down yet, which I think it is because my hand is completely soaked with gas now that I just did that. So I think it's actually this fuel line, but it could also be the float here because, well, that's not really wet, but we'll see. Just a minute. Okay, so I just turned the gas on again just to show you guys where it's leaking. You'll see all this shiny stuff on here, that's all gasoline. And it is coming from the fuel line, which is down here. You'll see a little bit of movement here, that's my finger. That's right where the gas line hooks up. And it is needing a clamp to hold it down on the fuel nipple, and our fuel issues should be no more, but we'll see. Borb, do you like the dirt bike? You like that dirt bike? Okay, don't wreck it. Okay, so how we're gonna remedy our fuel leaking issue is by stealing one of these clamps off of my John Deere lawn tractor that is in pieces right now. I'll get a new fuel clamp for this thing eventually. Okay, so I actually have the carburetor off of this bike just to show you whether the fuel leaks or not. Our main priority is going to be the top black line that's coming out of the carburetor, but the bottom one's going to be just as important. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the fuel on, which is turning up, and we'll watch. Hey, it's not leaking. Okay, so now that the carburetor is just in the boot of the bike, I went ahead and turned the fuel on. No leak, but it had got gas spilled on it before. It isn't leaking right now though. So we're doing good. Just put this thing back together and let's see if it runs. Air filter's in. Okay, so now we have the exhaust and the fender installed. I'm gonna put the seat on and we can try test firing it. Okay, so I have this bike all the way back together. I just turned the fuel on and we should just go ahead and see if this thing wants to run or not. So I realize that I shouldn't be cranking from this side, but I'm gonna try anyways. Just a minute, I'll try to get it running off camera. Alright, here's the dirt bike all the way back together. I'm gonna get somebody to come crank this thing for me because I'm too little and light to crank this thing. So I'll see you on the next clip. Now that we've removed this carburetor, we can see that this is the fuel. Oh no, hold on, this is not the fuel, this is the choke. This fuel line is on a different spot on this carburetor. That sucks. Seriously, now I have to restart this clip. How stupid can this get? Hold on, why am I even talking to this camera still? Try to start this bike. I should just be recording this? Dirt bike? Okay, don't wreck it. Look at this carburetor float, just floating in the water. It's like a little rubber ducky, like Ernie from Sesame Street. He'd be like, "Rubber ducky, you're the one, the rubber ducky." Or maybe he wouldn't be, but you know, it's kind of funny.